After accusing his wife Queen Mariamne of sleeping with other men, King Herod the Great became so infuriated that he ordered for her to be executed. But shortly after execution, King Herod reportedly regretted his decision and was so consumed by grief that he decided to preserve her body in honey in order to always have her close by. Some historians claim that every now and then, when he felt the urges coming on, he would take her body out and satisfy his desires with her corpse. He eventually died in the year 4 BC to a mysterious illness, which some speculate may have been due to a severe gangrene infection of the genitals. Considering what he had done with his wife's body, the symptoms of his illness were incredibly fitting. Here are some of the weirdest and most bizarre facts I could find. For example, did you know that most giraffes are not straight? Scientists say that male-on-male action is more common amongst giraffes than male-on-female. In one study from Tanzania that was published in Biological Exuberance, it said that 94% of all observed mating action was performed by males on other males. So while giraffes might look graceful and majestic from afar, their private lives reveal some interesting behaviors that reveal how diverse nature really is. Cuba is the only country in the world where you can still see people using classic American cars from the 1940s and 50s as a daily mode of transportation. Some might assume that Cuban people just enjoy the style of old-school cars, but the reason is actually very political. After the Cuban Revolution, America became petty and banned the export of American goods to Cuba, including all cars and car parts. After no more cars were allowed to be imported from the U.S., Cubans were forced to continue using American cars from before the 1950s. That's why when you go to Cuba today, the streets look like they're still stuck in the 1940s and 50s. Genghis Khan slaughtered so many people during his invasion of Mongolia that he unknowingly saved forests and cooled down the entire planet. The logic behind this is that the sharp decrease in population slowed down deforestation, which allowed large areas of land to return to their natural state. These growing forests were able to absorb large quantities of carbon dioxide, causing a slight cooling effect on the Earth's climate. Known for being America's national bird, bald eagles are one of the few animals that are monogamous by nature. That means no cheating and no flirting with other birds. Once they've found their partners, they typically stick together for life. However, just like humans, some evidence suggests that cheating and infidelity does occur outside of their established pair bonds, but at a much lower rate. So apparently bald eagles are still more faithful to their partners than the average married man. Catherine the Great might have been the kinkiest royal to have ever lived. According to several historical records, in order to become a lover of Catherine, there was an intimate test that men had to pass. Before jumping into her bed, prospective suitors had to first satisfy one of Catherine's ladies-in-waiting. Foot tickling was used in the Muscovite palaces and courts for centuries as a means of arousal. Many of the tsarinas, including Catherine the Great, loved it. It was so popular that eunuchs and women were employed as full-time foot ticklers. Armadillo shells can sometimes turn out to be bulletproof, but please don't test this at home because in 2015 a man in Texas was rushed to the hospital after shooting at one that he found in his garden. Instead of piercing through the skin, the bullet ricocheted off the shell and went straight into his jaw. He was then airlifted to a nearby hospital where his jaw had to be wired shut, according to police. The planet of Uranus was originally called George. When it was first discovered in 1781 by astronomer William Herschel, King George III of England was so impressed that he declared Herschel the official court astronomer. William repaid the favor by naming his discovery George in honor of the king. But this name didn't gain international acceptance because it went against the tradition of naming planets after Roman or Greek gods. The name was eventually changed in 1850 when German astronomer Johann Bode suggested the name Uranus, derived from the name of the ancient Greek god Oranos, to better fit with the other planets' mythological names. The Egyptian Empire lasted so long that ancient Egyptian history was a career in ancient Egypt. According to one ancient historian, Roman Emperor Nero tried to end his mother's life on numerous occasions and failed every single time. First, he tried to poison her on several occasions, but she always took an antidote on time. Then he constructed a machine that would collapse her bedroom ceiling on her when she slept. But she caught wind of the plot and escaped. Finally, he invented a collapsible boat that would drown her while she was on a pleasure cruise, and she still survived. Maybe she should have been called Catherine the Immortal instead. Bearcats are known for smelling like warm, buttered popcorn. Their unique aroma comes from the same chemical compound that gives popcorn its distinctive smell when heated. Elizabeth Bathory lived in Hungary in the 16th century. She is now known as the Blood Countess for reasons that sound like they come straight out of a horror story. Partly thanks to a terrible childhood, Bathory loved hurting young servants and peasant girls. Her husband even built her a customized chamber for this, and some stories claim she used to drink the blood of the girls as well as bathe in it. Truly disturbing. The idea of Cyclops first came up in ancient Greece after people found the fossil of a woolly mammoth and had no idea what it was. Turns out they weren't just some crazy imaginary beasts. When they found these fossils, they mistook the giant nasal cavities as one single eye socket and used them as evidence for these mythological creatures. Queen Olympias was Alexander the Great's mother, and at times she was even more ruthless than her son. On one occasion, she sent a captive enemy queen a cup of poison, a cord, and a sword, then told her to choose how she wanted to die. According to historians, the woman ultimately chose the cord, though she cursed Olympias to the very end of her life. Hurricanes release the energy of 10,000 nuclear bombs. If you measure the kinetic energy of its wind velocity alone, one single hurricane can produce about half of Earth's capacity to produce electricity. That type of sustained energy can do some serious damage, as far too many people have experienced. Sloths only poop once per week. Everything about sloths is slow, and that includes their digestive system. The average adult sloth poops every 1 to 7 days, but unfortunately, these tree dwellers have to come down to defecate, leaving them vulnerable to predators. About half of all sloth deaths occur during their once-a-week poop. Ibrahim I became Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, even though he was very clearly mentally unstable. He drowned his entire harem of women and imposed new taxes to fund his lavish lifestyle. His people deposed him, and then 10 days later, they strangled him. Drowning women is one thing, but new taxes? Unacceptable. In an effort to accentuate length and forehead size, trendy women in the Middle Ages removed annoying distractions such as eyebrow hairs. If the head still wasn't prominent enough, the hairline was plucked to increase the forehead size. Stop signs were originally yellow because red paint faded too easily and looked too dark at night. It wasn't until the 1950s, when a fade-resistant red paint became available, that stop signs were standardized as red. Anna, the mad Tsarina of Russia, once tormented one of her hated couriers by locking him up in an ice palace for the night. Before that, she forced him to act like a chicken, sit in her antechamber, and lay eggs. Back in the 16th century, wealthy men became troubled by an outbreak of balding heads from the general disease syphilis. In an ingenious move to kill two birds with one stone, elaborate powdered and scented wigs became all the rage in an effort to hide hair loss, as well as the unpleasant odor associated with the illness. Roller coasters are designed to shake and tremble, but this isn't to add to the experience, it's actually for safety reasons. If roller coasters were completely sturdy, the forces exerted would cause them to break and snap. The shaking absorbs these forces and distributes it more evenly. New Zealand once had an official wizard. A man named Ian Brackenbury Chanel was appointed as the country's official wizard by Prime Minister Mike Moore in the 1990s. Chanel said the job mostly involved an occasional rain dance during droughts and came with the benefit of a tax-free income. No two human beings on the planet have the same fingerprints, not even identical twins. So if you think you'll get away with blaming your crimes on your twin, think again. This is because environmental factors inside the womb, such as umbilical cord length, position in the womb, and the rate of finger growth, can all impact your fingerprints.